Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy October 29th, 2025. Whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad, happy hump day. It's a Wednesday, baby. Ready to go. Half the week done. A couple more days to go till the weekend. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Couldn't do this without you guys. Comments, questions, concerns, feel free to put them there at the bottom of the screen if you want to join in on the conversation via the video chat. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your laptop. There's the link right there, streamyard.com/86QDVRFR78. Just click on that link right there in the chat, and you can join us again on your phone or on your laptop. Make sure if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter/X, kill that like button. Every single like definitely helps. The only way that this thing is going to grow is if you help out. We had a couple of people with the super chat already this week. If you could donate $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can do, every little bit counts. And of course, our main sponsors, our partners here on the program: Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC, 813-244-0956, and Ever Health. Go to everhealth.org for all of your healthcare needs. Great show for you guys lined up on the program today. The College Football National Championship coming back to Tampa in 2029. We'll get into the details of that here momentarily. Also, the NHL's Frozen Frenzy was last night. All 32 teams were playing, and why it was an absolute failure, in my opinion. Logan Robinson joins us at 12:30. Buccaneers game day, Nole game day. These are guys that just, this is a guy right here that just, he's all over it. He is all over it. And we'll break down the 6-2 Bucs and also the future of Mike Norvell there in Tallahassee. Erik Erlendsson joins us at 1 o'clock for his weekly visit to talk all things Tampa Bay Lightning. The Bolts go into Nashville last night and come away with the victory. A solid performance. That's 3 dubs in a row for our Tampa Bay Lightning. They return home tomorrow to Benchmark International Arena, and we will be live from the arena for our program. So cannot wait for that. And then World Series Game 4 last night. This series, the 7-game affair between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, are all knotted up at 2. What an impressive showing from the Toronto Blue Jays. They have really stood out, and I got to give them a lot of credit, man, because I thought this was going to be a sweep, but they're doing all the little things, even without George Springer. Could not be more impressed, and there's a huge reason why. Again, we'll talk about that after Erik Erlendsson at 1:25 today. Let's get to some of the comments from our guy, David Terry. Where the heck is Charles Edouard Dastu been hiding? This guy is a stud. I'm Darren Radish. I'm sweating a little bit. Yep, and Gergensen showing an elite player, an outstanding game. No doubt about it. Love what I've seen from that fourth line. Really, really good stuff there. Pontus Holmberg, Semgus Gergensens, Yanni Gord. That's the fourth line to really be nervous about, because those guys are relentless. They're tough forecheckers. They're going to play solid in their own zone. It's up to the top 9 to really show up, and you're seeing Brandon Hagel play much better. Nikita Kucherov chipping in with the goal. And again, you mentioned Charles Edouard Dastu. Dominic Janes, I thought, played another strong game last night. These new faces are really pushing the incumbents, the guys that have been there for a while. So I really, really love to see that. Dolan, Jays aren't done yet. Still think the Dodgers got this. So a really cool interview with Kyle Brandt and Baker. Really worth checking out. Yeah, I saw that chat. Really good stuff there. Eddie chiming in. What's going on, Eddie? How are you, pal?
What's going on, Jay? Everybody, how y'all doing today?
We're good, buddy. How'd your bets go last night?
Hagel didn't get my 5 shots, but I'm more happy that you guys are, starting to pile on some wins. So that's good to see for you guys.
Yeah, how'd the Panthers do last night?
That's a funny one, Jay. You know we lost.
No, you know what? I saw an old tweet and I thought it was last night and I never got a chance to check it. So I guess they did lose.
Yeah, we lost in the shootout. But listen, I'm not really worried.
No.
We're not really known for having a strong start in the season, anyways, and we're
Right.
missing 4 or 5 key players, so I'm not really too worried about us.
No doubt about it, man.
As far as my friends tomorrow, listen, we're going back to the outside weather, so back to usual losing streak. Let's get it going.
Uh,
As far as your Bucs game, let's get that dub in this Sunday, man. Let's go.
That's right. Eddie, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, guys.
You too, pal. Eddie always chiming in. We always appreciate the love. Eddie Harada in the house. If you guys want to chime in, feel free to do so as well. Yeah, I didn't know if the Panthers, because I did see it was an old tweet. Sometimes the timeline, it's never in order. And it was like 22 hours. And I was like, all right, maybe the Panthers did win. But they didn't. Listen, regardless of what has happened with those guys and the history with them and the Lightning, this is a damn good team. Just the way it goes, man. All right, some NFC players of the week, some breaking news from our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good stuff from the Bucs, huh? All right, hold on. Really good news from the Bucs. And listen, good news that we just heard earlier today that the 2029 college football national championship game is coming back to Tampa Bay, and really, really great to see that over at Raymond James Stadium. And we remember the one from years ago with Alabama and Clemson and, just all eyes here on the Tampa Bay area. And even though we know that Rob Higgins has moved on from his role with the Tampa Bay Sports Commission and he is over now with USF, the momentum's not going to stop. With Tony Diaz and Claire Lessinger and everybody over there at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission, this is still Tampa. And that team, remember, it wasn't just Rob, it was that team. Such great people. So the fact that we're getting this game, no surprise. We know that this is going to be a place that's going to continue to get big events, whether it's WrestleManias, whether it's Super Bowls, college football, national championship games. The Tampa Bay Sports Commission does such a great job of highlighting all of the great things that happen here in the Tampa Bay area. So kudos to everybody there at the Sports Commission that's shown a spotlight on our area, and it's just going to continue to go, continue to roll, continue to get big events here in the Tampa Bay area. But I want to talk about what just dropped just now at high noon. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have announced, or the NFL has announced, that the Bucs kicker Chase McLaughlin, NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and outside linebacker Anthony Nelson, NFC Defensive Player of the Week for their exploits in Week 8 in New Orleans against the Saints. The first set of teammates in 2025 to win Player of the Week honors in the same week, and the first set of Tampa Bay teammates to do so since Derek Brooks and Matt Bryant back in 2008. Bucs 4 Player of the Week awards in 2025, the most in the NFL. Chase McLaughlin converted all 3 of his field goal attempts of 52, 54, and 55 yards, both of his extra point attempts as well. He's one of 2 kickers this season with 3 made field goals of 50-plus yards in a game, and just one of 4 since 2020 to do so in a single half. He leads the league with 8 50-plus yard field goals and ranks tied for second in field goals made and third in points for a kicker. Isn't that funny, too? Because Chase was a little bit of a question mark, right? To start the season. We're like, what the hell's going on? And we heard Todd Bowles before the season in training camp go, hey, it's awesome not to be worried, and I'm not losing sleep over my special teams. And then the season started. It was like, what's going on? What's going on with the punt game? What's going on with the field goal? And listen, we haven't really talked about it much the last couple of weeks. So really, really good stuff to be able to rectify that and get those guys back on the right track. But congratulations to Chase McLaughlin. He's on my fantasy team, so I love that son of a gun. Really, really good stuff there. How about Anthony Nelson? 4 tackles, 2 for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, and an interception, return for a touchdown for a Tampa Bay defense that scored more points than allowed. Became the first player since 2007 to have 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception return in a single game, and just one of 3 players since 2000 to accomplish that feat. Earning his first sack, forced fumble, and interception return touchdown all in the opening half. He became the first player since Khalil Mack to record this in a single half. He was the only defender with a touchdown in Week 8, and among all NFC defensive players, he tied for first in sacks, interceptions, and forced fumbles. Really great stuff there. Cam Johnson was the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week in Week 1. Jamel Dean, the NFC Defensive Player of the Week in Week 6. Mecca Ibuka, September Rookie of the Month honors. And Baker Mayfield, Week 5, FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Week. So when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6-2 to start this 2025 season. And again, we'll talk some more Buccaneers with our guy Logan Robinson from Bucs Gameday at 12:30. But man, the individual accomplishments that these guys have been able to attain through the first 8 weeks of the season, you love to see it. That's what has to give you hope as a Buccaneer fan going forward. We see this with all good teams. Guys that banged up, other people step up. We see with the Blue Jays now with the World Series. George Springer goes down, other guys step up. And the Bucs, as much as you would love to think that, all right, the bye week is coming, guys are going to come back, and they've reached their quota when it comes to injuries. That's not necessarily how it works. It doesn't always work like that. But we can hope that the Buccaneers can get as healthy as humanly possible in this back half of the season to really give them a shot to make a long postseason run. I absolutely believe that the leadership is in place, that there's a belief there with the Buccaneers. There's stuff that you can't teach. You have it or you don't. And the way that these guys band together, the way that they can put up a performance. Listen, that game against New Orleans was a tricky one. I know you look back on it now, it's 23-3. Yeah, no big deal. The Saints suck. They only have 1 win. I get that. But we've seen this in the past. We see it in college. We see it in the pros. We've seen it with other teams where you go on the road, divisional opponent. There's a clear disparity between the two teams. And the team lays an egg on the road. They're looking ahead to the bye. They're dealing with injuries. They can make a bunch of excuses why things happen. Like, we've seen this story before. Hell, we've seen it with the Buccaneers before, where they lose games that they're supposed to win. And you're like, damn, man, what is going on? They're fugazi. They're not real. But there's certain tests that you have to pass. And you think about it. The 2 games the Buccaneers lost going into this season, or when you looked at that schedule at the bye, those were the 2 I think many thought they probably could have lost. I mean, is it really a surprise that they lost to Philly and Detroit, 2 teams that they were able to beat last year? I mean, that's what's going to happen. When you're heavyweights, you're going to get some, the other team's going to get some. It's just the way it goes. I'm not upset at all. And there was a lot of people that had the Bucs maybe winning 10, maybe winning 11. Let's not forget, I had the Bucs 12-5 before the season. I had them 6-2 before the break. So it's worked out pretty damn good for the Buccaneers so far. But they have to keep going. They have to play complementary football. Don't go on any of these long skids. Get some of these guys back healthy. Get Bucky back. Get Chris Godwin back. And we'll talk to our pal Dr. Carlos Rodriguez with the Ever Health Injury Report tomorrow at 12:30 on the program. And he's going to give us his best guess on whether we could see Chris and Bucky when they return to action. But we know what the schedule is. These next couple of weeks are going to be rough. This Buccaneers team bands together and they play really, really good football. And I like that certain weeks it's the offense, certain weeks it's the defense. We saw last year, all we kept saying in the offseason was what? Defense, defense, defense. You know, we had this conversation with Logan. We had this conversation with, I remember it was with John Ledyard joined us, and we were talking about defense in the draft. Fortify the defensive side of the ball. Do whatever you can to make sure that you help that side. And that's what Jason Light was able to do. And I know Hassan Reddick has not lived up to expectations for a lot of people, and you thought you were getting more, but you still hopefully will get some production from him down the stretch. Anthony Nelson's been able to step up. Yaya Diaby's had some good games. We know what Vita Vea is going to be able to do out there. I really hope that, and we're starting to see more conversations about this, more articles being written about it. We know that Jason Light is not a guy that usually goes out there and makes a bunch of big trades, but I'm hoping that this year is a little different. You don't got to mortgage the future, but just go out there and bring somebody that can change the game a little bit. Bring somebody in that can give a little bit of a boost to the team, a little bit of boost to the fan base. The same thing that we get when you see Julian Breesbach go out there and bring back a Yanni Gordon, go acquire a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand. That gives you some life, man. It gives you some excitement. I'm hoping that Jason Light subscribes to that theory because that'd be pretty damn cool because this team deserves it. And if this is the last go for a guy like Levante David, if this is the last go for a guy like Mike Evans, don't you want to show them on the way out like, hey, man, we did whatever we could in that last season to put a winner around you and try to get back to another Super Bowl? Big shout out to our guy Chan with the $10 super chat. Chan, we couldn't do this without you, my friend. Thank you so much. Very, very much. The $10 super chat, Chan. You are the best. He's living the dream. Beautiful Tallahassee today. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, before we get to Logan Robinson, he's going to join us here on the program. Again, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, a little bit of everywhere. You guys know, people ask me, and I still get this conversation very often. What is your favorite sport? And, nowadays, I think more and more I say soccer. Damn Manchester United, you get to killing me. But they're playing better. 3-game winning streak, so we love it there. I love my 3-game winning streaks with Man U and the Lightning, that's for sure. But the sport that hockey is so near and dear to my heart, playing it for as long as I did and for refereeing and my brother playing. And it's such a fun sport. And obviously my close ties to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Really, I enjoy it so much. Now, here's the thing. Last night, the NHL had this idea, and this isn't the first year they've done it, and it's a frozen frenzy, they call it, where all 32 teams play, and they stagger the start times so that you can see the beginning of all of these games, I guess. Now, if you're a hockey fan, whether you're a casual, whether you're a diehard fan, did you guys know anything about the frozen frenzy yesterday? Any idea? Let me know. Yes, no, a little bit about it. Let me know right now. Put your comments there on the screen. Did you know about the frozen frenzy, and how much about it did you know? Because I'm a guy that loves hockey. I'm on NHL.com every day. I follow a bunch of different things. I watch a bunch of different videos. I read a lot of different things as well from The Athletic, and I'm plugged into a lot of this stuff. But if you're trying to grow the game and you're trying to get a lot of people to tune in to hockey, right? The reason why you do this is why? To get people to grow the game, to build some excitement, right? Did anybody really know about it? I mean, you're talking about a random Tuesday in October when you're going head-to-head with Game 4 of the World Series. Last night, the Knicks were playing the Bucs on national television on NBC. And I always go back to the the biggest market in New York. Number 2, Channel 2 is CBS, Channel 4 is NBC, Channel 5 is Fox, Channel 7 is ABC, right? So those are the big ones, 2, 4, 5, and 7, right? So you're telling me last night you had the Knicks on Channel 4 and you had the World Series on Channel 5. You think anybody was really tuning into the Islanders and the Rangers that weren't serious hockey fans? What kind of sense does that make? Why a random Tuesday in October? Why not something on Saturday? Why not something on a Wednesday in March when nothing else is going on? Why not do it at a time when there's no? I just don't quite understand. I'm all for hockey growing. I'm all for hockey being shown throughout the country and trying to find ways, but it just seems like every single year the NHL does such a piss poor job of explaining what their product is all about and trying to grow its viewership. It's weird. That was your best attempt. The most I heard about it was John Buccigross from ESPN. I mean, God, what if ESPN didn't have John Buccigross touting this sport as much as he does on social media, talking about the frozen frenzy and all these? If it's just one guy, who the hell is tuning into hockey on a Tuesday night in October when you have the Knicks on national TV and World Series Game 4, and it's a freaking Tuesday during the school year with Halloween coming up in a couple of days? Like, it's just so strange. And the way that you promoted it was like, what kind of job did you do promoting it? Storylines upon storyline. Like, what games should we have tuned into? What kind of storylines were out there? Where their guy, hey, the Lightning are traveling to Nashville to take on Steven Stamkos. Like, that would have been okay. New York's going to Vancouver at 10 o'clock. JT Miller returns home after a very messy divorce because of everything that was going on with Elias Pettersson and the Canucks, and nothing. I just, sometimes I feel like hockey is just okay operating as the fourth most popular sport in this country. And I just, they do such a piss poor job of growing the game, and it's just extremely frustrating. And I remember being at the All-Star game a couple of years ago and in Toronto, and what was it? Matthews' team won, and McDavid was the MVP. And, you know, I'm listening to the TV broadcast after, and they're talking about how this is so great for the sport, and this is going to grow the sport. No, it's not. You're telling me a Canadian All-Star game with Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid front and center, that's growing the game in the city of Toronto? No, it's not. Nobody talks about that game now. The only thing people remembered about that game was Tate McRae and Justin Bieber being drunk during the draft. That was it. And Nikita Kucherov. And Kucherov and his attitude during the skills competition. That was it. Was that growing the game? No, it wasn't. The people north of the border that surround themselves with this game, like, they live in a bubble. This is all it is to them. But for people here in the States that consume a lot of other different things on television, a lot of different sports, are you really attracting new people doing it on a freaking Tuesday night? Idiocy. Idiocy. 0 sense whatsoever. Who won the Stanley Cup last year? Florida Panthers. Highlight them. Ovechkin's coming closer to 900 goals. Highlight him. Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, what those guys are doing. Highlight them. The Rangers are playing in Vancouver. Like, I just, where's the marquee? Where's the oversaturation? If this was Frozen Frenzy night and you have the contract, ESPN and TNT, why isn't the Frozen Frenzy on ABC, ESPN, TNT, and TBS? But no, we're watching Dancing with the Stars on ABC last night. That's not a frenzy. That's you in your own little bubble once again, thinking, oh, we're fine. This is good. Look how great we're doing. I really hope the people that run this sport, that think that they're going to make any type of headway into the United States, looks at what happened last night and makes serious adjustments. Because it's embarrassing. It truly is. For somebody like myself who loves the sport, and I'm like, that's a frenzy? A frenzy? Ugh. More like a frozen failure to me. Not good enough. And again, I give a lot of credit to John Buccigross for all he does. But if you're really trying to grow the game, you need to put some serious momentum behind it. And you need to appeal to a lot of different audiences. The biggest thing to grow the game of hockey in the last 10 years was the Four Nations. Think about that. And it was the fights, and it was the play, right? It was the Kachucks. It was Hagels. It was all those guys. Then you have the Frozen Frenzy, and everybody's supposed to be impressed because everybody played on the same day, and you staggered the start times. That is what's supposed to get people fired up about the game of hockey? No thanks, bud. No thanks. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And I'm not a hater, and you know I love the sport of hockey, so this isn't somebody that like doesn't care and is not going to. I do watch it, and I did watch games last night, but you're not trying to appeal to me. You already have me. You're trying to get new people, get casuals to coming over. That's what the Lightning do so well. You may not know a lick about hockey, but you step inside a Benchmark International Arena for a Lightning game. And even if they lose, you walk out of Benchmark International Arena and you go, I can't wait to get back. Hockey is a much different sport in person than it is on television. I get that. So you need to be more creative with how you get it to appeal to people that aren't diehard fans. Spruce up the storylines, highlight the main characters, and bring in some other people from different genres, different sports, pop culture. Don't just do it every once in a while. Don't do some obscure person that maybe half of the nation has only heard of. Like, dive in. We used to have a thing when we were working at iHeart, ambassadors with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where there was one person from each station that would be like a big Lightning fan or get a jersey or something like that. I'm pretty sure they did something similar to that a couple of years ago. That it should be a team of people. There should be a team of 3 to 5 people from each NHL team, super fans, and all of the millions of followers. Just think about that. Let's say each one of those people has 1 million followers. And they could be actors, they could be singers, songwriters, they could be chefs, they can do whatever the hell they want, right? But if they're a super fan, you get them to go, you give them access, social media, put it all over their social media, all of their followers that may not have any interest in hockey or sports whatsoever, but you get it in front of their eyeballs. 32 teams and you're over 150 people a team, right? Or 150 people, 150 celebrities out there on social media promoting the game of hockey. Now we're talking about growth. Now we're talking about bringing new eyeballs to the product. That makes sense to me. You don't got to do that for the NFL. We know where their super fans are at. But for hockey, the decision makers and the people that are in these conversations about what can we do to grow the game, you're missing big time. You're missing the net, and it's wide open because there is a gap there. There's an opportunity for you to step in and to be able to find a new audience. People are looking to try to consume new information, new brands. They want to be a part of something. People enjoy being Lightning fans. They enjoy going to Benchmark International Arena and saying, hey, I've been to a Lightning game. But if you have an opportunity to grow the game like the NHL did last night, and their way to go about it is to have all 32 teams play on a freaking Tuesday night going up against a national televised National Basketball Association game on NBC, the World Series Game 4, Dancing with the Stars. What are we doing? You're not serious about growing the game if that is your recipe for success. And the NHL will just continue to lag behind in fourth, and we're just going to wait for the Four Nations or wait for the Olympics for people to get invested. Because right now, if you're not a diehard fan, you probably didn't know that your team was playing last night. You were probably watching something else. All right, some good stuff from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today, we heard the news about the special teams player of the week for the NFC as well as the defensive player of the week. We're going to keep that conversation going with our pal, Logan Robinson, Bucs Game Day, Nole Game Day. Every single game day that's out there, he is on, and he's chopping it up. He's doing a little bit of everything. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Doing good. I should probably bring my microphone down here. That would probably help a little bit more. But things are going good. Things are not going good for FSU and whatever's happening in Tallahassee and Mike Norvell. They've got a pretty interesting game coming up this Saturday after having a bye week and then putting out that statement 2 weeks ago about wanting to support Mike Norvell and everything moving forward and are not going to make any moves, and they will reassess it all before at the end of the season. So FSU is in a different place, but man, it's great to be down here in Tampa with the Bucs 6-2, dealing with all those injuries. Todd Bowles has put together a team here, and this bye week couldn't have came at any better of a time for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And before we get to the Bucs, you know what? Let's just start there with Florida State, because I wanted to ask you about that. When it's funny when you hear these announcements like, "Oh, we're going to stick with them." Very rarely it's because they don't want to seem like they're making any rash decisions. They're looking out and seeing everybody else firing their coach, and they go, "We don't want to be that guy," even though they may know deep down in their heart that it might be the right move in the long run. I see that announcement and I go, "Oh, okay, that's great. He's still getting fired at the end of the year." What say you? You think Norvell makes it through the year, and do you think by the time they get to the end of the year, is he still coaching in Tallahassee?
Well, after last year, I said, that's a fireable offense to ever go 2-10 at FSU. It's almost impossible for that to happen with the amount of talent that you have and the resources put in. It was not a great and possible feat that he did, but he sure did do that. And then he goes this year and hasn't won an ACC game yet. Now 1-11 since 2024, which is a wild stat to think of. And, there's a lot of games left that, FSU still has to play. They play Wake Forest, who's on a 3-game winning streak, who beat one of the top teams in the ACC with SMU this past weekend. Wasn't a great game from the Demon Deacons, but still they got the win. And Florida State will face Wake Forest in Doak Campbell Stadium at a 7:30 kickoff this upcoming weekend. And then, of course, you got to face the Gators, who have an interim coach down there in Gainesville at the end of the season. There's nothing after you lose to Stanford. Any game is a toss-up at this point for FSU, which is really sad to hear. And I don't believe that he should be, your head coach going into 2026. But the biggest issue is your financial problems that you've been dealt with making that big extension, after that 2023 season, which he had deserved. He had done what he needed to do to get that climb that he uses, that message of the climb and respond. That had worked until 2024 with what we just talked about, going 2-10, and that put them in a big time bind with how much money that they put into him with that extension. So too much money, Jay, too much money. And there's chatter that, this could be your head coach still going into 2026. It's just pretty brutal situation that FSU is going into right now with also two other, big time programs looking for new head coaches as well.
Yeah. And I wonder what that's going to look like too. Cause I said this on the program yesterday, and I don't like to speculate all that much about guys leaving, but there was, listening to what Joel Klatt had to say, listening to Travis had to say about some of the jobs and how LSU is going to throw a bunch of money at Nick Saban probably, or Urban Meyer, and they got to get a splash hire there. And if Florida doesn't get Lane Kiffin, they got to get somebody with a big name. And, Alex Golesh is going to be on that short list. He really is. And because there isn't a ton of big time candidates out there. And I don't know if I've ever, in my entire 40 years of living on this earth, I don't know if I've ever seen as many high profile jobs open at the same time. And you're looking at, okay, like let's say Urban and Nick stay where they're at, and they're sticking the TV. And let's say Dan Lanning's like, "No, I'm good in Oregon." Lane says, "No, I'm good at Ole Miss." Then what happens, right? Then what, like you're looking at Jed Fish, you're looking at some of these, what happens to James Franklin? Does he get back into the coaching circle? And then that's not even saying if Florida State's job becomes open. And I wonder, and I ask you this, do you think Florida State, what's the biggest factor when it comes to whether they keep Norvell or not? Is it the buyout money? Because it seems like it doesn't matter. I'm sure there's Florida State boosters that'll kind of nudge the administration going, "Hey man, they're doing it. We'll do it. We'll take care of it." or do you think do they not want to miss out on this cycle? What do you think goes into that decision overall?
Well, it's definitely the financial issues. That's something that this administration is having to deal with. Michael Alford, the athletic director, they put in a ton of resources, not even to football, but across the entire sports landscape of trying to enhance a lot of their facilities. And sure enough, the football only facility as well for the football program, the renovations to Campbell Stadium, like there's been a lot of money poured in. And then when you look at it with making some major changes to your staff with Gus Malzahn coming in as offensive coordinator, Tony White, the new defensive coordinator, and all the assistants that they brought with them. And they still put even some more resources in the NIL as well. They put a lot of their eggs in this basket for this season to at least get to probably an 8-win season. That way you can look at to next year and feel pretty confident. This has been a failure of a season for sure. And now the money is the biggest issue, number one. And then two, the thing that is starting to become visible is Mike Norvell, is he losing his locker room? Because there was a report that, after the Stanford game, there was some laughing and some cracking jokes of Mike Norvell in the post game, I would say, speech, talking to the players and some guys in the background laughing and chattering. I don't know if that's fully true or not, but certainly, though, you could see on the field during the game that guys just didn't seem like they wanted to be out there. And you saw a lot of the signs, Jay, from 2024, where that team, it was a really, really, really hard watch. Offense, there was no play there. And then on the defensive side, guys just lollygagging around, didn't want to make tackles and just being very selfish. And you saw that in that Stanford game, not from everybody, but from a handful of players. And I wonder after this bye week if there's going to be some adjustments in the personnel usage as well, because that's something going from last year and even before that too. Mike Norvell will keep players out there that are undisciplined and, make mistakes and continue to make mistakes that hurt your team. And that's something that I've been not a fan of the way that he does that and runs his process there and continues to put players out there that disappoint you. And we'll see if those adjustments are made this Saturday against Wake.
Thomas going to be the quarterback this weekend, you think?
Yeah, we talked with Mike Norvell just a little bit ago, and he mentioned that things are trending in the right direction actually for him, which is a really good sign. He took a nasty blow against Wake Forest. That was against Stanford. That was a dirty shot that he took there at the end of the game, trying to get downfield. And, a concussion, and he had already been dealing with a lower leg injury too from that Kent State early on in the season. So, but things are heading in the right direction. Mike said that, all of the things that they've asked for him to do in practices this week and even a little bit of late last week, things are heading in that direction where you will see Tommy Castellanos. I do believe you'll see Tommy out there start. He's a guy he's one that has been emotional on the sidelines. He's fiery leader, and he actually, something that I saw that stood out to me a couple days ago, he actually posted on his Instagram story of him and Mike Norvell, just a solo shot of both him and Mike whenever he was first, I believe, visiting FSU. And I think it was to send a message to the rest of the roster that we ride with our head coach. And,
right.
I think you'll see Tommy out there. He's a guy that, this team would really love to have out there. I don't know if you want to run out with a true freshman. I know a lot of people want to see Kevin Sperry, but Tommy wants to fight and try to win. And definitely when he's fully healthy, it's a good sign. So we'll see. But I think Tommy plays Saturday, Jay.
Nice. All right. I'm sure a lot of Noles fans would love to hear that. Try to salvage this back half of the season if they can. Speaking of our Buccaneers, 6-2 through 8 games, and now people are looking for obviously some rest, see if we can recuperate. What's been the biggest surprise for you when it comes to these Buccaneers through 8 games?
Biggest surprise, I would have to say, and the injuries always happens to the Bucs. Right. It feels like definitely since I've been covering them, there's been some bad luck on that realm. But I was going to say how well Josh Grizzard has been able to excel in this offense. Now, the last couple of games has not been so great. I think that doesn't help too with the injuries. I think it finally caught up to him, as it should for any rookie. This is his first time being a play caller, and it's going to be in the NFL. The fact that it was running so smoothly and well kind of surprised me, but not so much, because defensive coordinators, and when they go and look at film, they can really kind of analyze what Grizzard is trying to do. But two, whenever you're limited in so many different types of resources on the offensive side of the ball with your offensive line, which is not been as best of play the last couple of games. And then, of course, your wide receiver room, which has been depleted and hurting pretty bad. Then your star running back is out for we don't know how much longer, really, to be honest with you, with multiple injuries that he suffered. I was going to say Josh Grizzard. That would be the first one, the mid-season point for me. But I think, too, they got to find someone, too, in the linebacker room to help them. I know Levante David has the experience. He just doesn't have that speed anymore to him, and there's no blame on him for that. But because you thought you'd have it with Rossier Dennis to step in. But he's been hit or miss, way too inconsistent. Definitely whenever teams have really good running backs. I'm sure you've noticed this, Jay. Yeah. But when these teams have good running backs, they just dice up right after Rossier Dennis, and they have explosive plays. And Todd Bowles is not happy whatsoever about that. And that's something that they're going to want to fix. And but those would be probably my two bigger surprises there. I thought we'd have a better play from Rossier Dennis because his staff feels so damn highly about him, and they did not make a move in the offseason to be able to, help themselves. You would have thought, if they had some concerns of Rossier Dennis, then they would go and do that in the NFL draft or make some moves in the offseason, free agency, whatever that might be. But that's just not the case right now. But 6-2, you take that any day of the week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm with you on the linebacker. I was kind of one of the vocal guys of like, are we sure? Are we sure this is what we're doing with the interior linebacker position here? Carson Schwessinger, like maybe that's the guy you draft. No, it's like some other guys. And I'm like, are we sure this is what we're going to go with? And it was like, oh, we brought in Anthony Walker and kind of like traded KJ. It was kind of like a trade, KJ Britt thing. And I'm like, all right, but shouldn't we get somebody? Oh, I got Deion Jones. Like Deion Jones, like really? And now we're watching it, and it's because hey, the coverage is going to be better. He's a great coverage linebacker. Okay. The coverage, he's been terrible. I mean, he hasn't been not good. He's been terrible. If anything, Servasi, I think, has been more impressive going forward and blitzing. And I think he's a better open field tackler going forward, meeting guys at the line of scrimmage than a lot of people thought. But if you get him out in coverage against a Bijan and a Saquon, and I know that may be, that might be a little unfair to judge him against that, but it's at the end of the day, you got to be able to at least keep them from going for 45, 50, 75 yards. I mean, hell, if you're catching them at 15, 20, you're like, hey, you get, but they're blowing past him. So I guess that goes into my next question. Do you think that the Buccaneers make a move at the deadline? We know that Jason Light is not that guy. He's not the guy where he's like every single trade deadline, I'm going to go out and get somebody. He values the hell out of those draft picks. But I just feel like if you're going to make a deal, and we saw it years ago when he brought in Steve McClendon when Vita Vea was banged up. We saw it when he brought in JPP years ago. But when you look at Levante, you look at Mike Evans, could this be the last year for both those guys? When you see that you have a veteran-laden roster and you know that one move could kind of change things, do you go out and get, a Calais Campbell? Do you go out and get a Jalen Phillips? Do you go out and get a Jordan Brooks? Like, do you see them making a move? And if you do make a move, what position do you think they would address?
Probably the one that we were just speaking about there, maybe in that linebacker room itself. And, going into the Saints game, we were immediately thinking, well, Hassan Reddick, well, first off, we didn't know the injury, like how deep this injury was, the severity, I should say, because we knew he was dealing with that knee and ankle for Hassan Reddick. But then we're like, all right, well, you got to probably, if it's bad, then you're going to have to look in the trade market there for an edge rusher, because he didn't know, Anthony Nelson, he's a guy that steps in, and when he does come in and contribute, he plays well. But I would say linebacker and probably your edge room. I know there's some talk about the wide receiver room. I think that all depends on how well Chris Godwin comes back, how healthy he comes back, because he admitted to us there in the locker room whenever his first game back earlier in the season that he felt very rusty. Things still, weren't there for him. He wasn't at 100%, and he was being honest there. And then the Seahawks game gets injured, and we don't know really the full severity too of his injury. And when you talk about fibulas, it's immediately you think, oh my goodness, how is he going to play through that? How can he recover and come back and play a physical football game? And the wide receiver room is one to me that stands out. And, I think with Baker Mayfield was playing at an MVP caliber rate, in this first half of the season, last 2 games, things are off. I don't think he was fully healthy. Oblique injury, bicep, lower body as well. And he's just dinged up, man. He's dinged up, but he was playing fantastic, even with limited resources, like we were speaking on earlier. And that offense was clicking. The defense was able to make this defense is making a ton of plays at the moment for you, which is great to see. But is it time to, if Jason feels like the Super Bowl contending team, then you push all of your chips in there and you try to take advantage of what you can. And I think this team has that. It just really is going to depend on some guys coming back fully healthy. Starts off with Gedeke, which I think is the closest to returning, Jay, and then probably, Bucky. That's going to be the one that is going to be the one that expands your entire offense, not only just in the run game, but of course in the passing game. And then how you feel about Chris Godwin, which I think is the one that is just a complete toss-up, because I still feel he was trying to get into football groove, running routes and everything fully with all full-on contact with that ankle. And then now he's dealing with a fibula situation there. Those are the things that are questionable. And then too, you see if, is Mike Evans, could he come back near the end of the season, or at least get you into that week 1, week 2 in the playoffs, depending on where you're slotted at for that. It's a phenomenal conversation and discussion to have, because, I would imagine that's exactly what's happening at one Buck. Don't you think, Jay?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And, I do have my concerns about Chris Godwin. I have Dr. Rodriguez on with the injury report every Thursday, and he says that if they're announcing that it's a fibula injury, there's 2 things it could be. It could be a stress fracture on top and on the bottom of the hardware that he had in there during the surgery, or a bone bruise. But a bone bruise doesn't keep you out for 3 weeks. So that's scary for them to say fibula still. That means that there was probably a stress reaction, and that's another fracture. So that means that there's a fracture on top or the bottom of the plate, and the screws are on there, and they're not going to come out and say that. But when they say fibula and it's not something else, it's scary, and you just don't know. Like, broken bones you're not something to mess around with, man. And Chris Godwin, with the way he plays too, he's not a guy that's trying to avoid contact either. He loves, planting his foot in the ground, making sharp cuts, catching those bubble screens, blocking downfield over the middle of the field. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not a wuss. He's a football player. So I feel for him. I really do. And I look at this team, and I look at a guy like Jamel Dean and Rashad White. And I think you and I have spoken about this before. Like, people were trying to get rid of these guys in the beginning of the season, before the season started. And now, think about it, Logan, where would this team be without those guys? Who do you think has a better chance to be back next year? Because, like, Rashad could say, all right, I can probably go and try to vie for an RB1 job somewhere else. But knowing that Bucky, is a guy, and I have my concerns going into the season about Bucky being a holdup for 17 games. He's not a big guy. He had some injuries last year too. Rashad, and we've already seen Jamel do it once, left more money on the table to go somewhere instead of going somewhere else, going, hey, they accentuate my strengths and take care of me here. What do you think the future holds for those 2 guys?
I should add, when we were talking about, biggest surprises, if we're going to talk about some players, it'd be Jamel Dean and another guy like, probably Elijah Roberts, who was a starter for you this last weekend, practically was the week prior. Like, those 2 guys have stepped up immensely for this defense. But going to Jamel Dean, I think he's a guy that just enjoys being in Tampa. A lot of us, like you do, I could tell, in the background of the show and how much you do across all of these sports landscaping, Tampa's a great place to live, tons of sports. It's good, definitely too, when your organization takes care of you like they do. And plus too, Bowles has seen, he asked one direct thing, and we spoke with him, I think it was up in Indianapolis, about some things that needed to improve with Jamel Dean. And it was practically, you got to stay healthy. Just stay healthy for me, man, because he's a solid product on the field. Yeah. He really is. But we start complaining whenever you see him on the injury report and he's not available. It's just the same way for Carlton Davis, and they had enough there with him. But Jamel Dean was more of a consistent player for you. And now that he's consistently healthy, you're getting a phenomenal player, and what Jamel Dean is right now, with takeaways, great in coverage right now, press. Like, he's a really solid cornerback for you. And too, Benjamin Morrison, he had dealt with that injury at Notre Dame. He's here now, and so you kind of got to be very cautious with him too. But he's, kind of been learning from Jamel Dean, and I think Jamel Dean would stay here over Rashad White. Rashad, as we know, I think he'd be fine with taking an opportunity elsewhere, certainly too, if he were to have more of a bigger role over just sharing that or being a true RB2 like he was going into the season. I think we all would understand that, but I've been pleased with how Rachaad White has. I mean, he's had to come back and be that RB1 for you, and he's taken that onto his shoulders, and there's no chatter about anything or whatever. He's been dialed into this season, but I've been very pleased with what we've had to see from Jamel Dean on that defensive side of the ball. He's been a dog, and he's also a fun guy. He's a fun guy to talk to in the locker room. He's short with you. Sometimes you wonder if you ask something mean or bad to him, because he'll look at you and then he'll truly think about your question before he answers it. But just a really fun guy to work with, and I would love to see Jamel going in the next season. I'm sure the Bucs would like that as well. Just depends on the price.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I love Jamel. He's such a funny guy. Such a good dude. All right, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the Steelers. People talking about trying to trade away pieces here. Like, I mean, you're looking at the Steel City here. It's an interesting group that they have. They're in I don't know if anybody saw the AFC North kind of unfolding the way it has. I mean, obviously the Browns, I mean, no surprise there where they're at, but the injury to Joe Burrow, the injury to Lamar Jackson, and just even Baltimore playing as poorly as they have, even when he was there. What do you make of the Steelers? What do you think they should be doing? Because I saw something today talking about, maybe they should trade some of these veteran guys, the defense not being able to step up and do what they have to do. What's your take on them? Is this team destined for a first-round playoff exit or what?
Oh, it's certainly heading that way. I mean, I knew, Green Bay is a tough team to face, and don't be wrong here. That was going to be a tough opponent, and Jordan Love is playing some really good football right now. Tucker Kraft's a beast at tight end, and I love what they have at running back with Josh Jacobs. I think that kid is damn good. But for the Steelers, I mean, that secondary has got awful. I've been saying that for a very long time, and you got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, who also wasn't playing well the last few seasons. So I'm not going to just harp on, losing Minkah, but they have injuries there too that they've had to deal with. They made some moves there, and just yesterday, I believe, and their secondary to hopefully help them a little bit more from the Patriots. But the thing is, you kind of go through that same theme year in, year out, where Mike Tomlin has a strong start to the season. Everybody's getting hyped. Everybody's excited. And then you hit that midseason form, and then something just falls apart, and that defense fell apart. And you have such strong pieces, Cam Hayward, you've got TJ Watt, you got Herbig, who's been a really nice addition. And, Highsmith is Highsmith, but something's lacking there. And I would say the second level and that third level, and it's hurting you, man. It's hurting you. And I don't know. Aaron Rodgers, he's playing good football. This is the best quarterback we've had, being a Steelers fan, since Big Ben. And it's not on him. I think they did need to find something up at the wide receiver room, which they also did as well this week with Scantling. But it's an older group with a lot of younger guys too as well that have a lot on their shoulders to have to handle with this team. I don't know. I've been pleased with Aaron Rodgers, and some of these balls he's been throwing are like, woo, it's so much. It's so fun. At least he's doing it in the black and gold. And I'm like, God damn, that's such a beautiful ball. Yeah. But my defense can't make a blank stop, man. And it's irritating. But we'll see. It's Mike Tomlin, though. That's what he usually does, man. We're going to lose at least 2 or 3 straight.
And then come back and find a way to make the playoffs in some form or fashion. That's the way they roll. That's the way he rolls. Logan's Twitty on Twitter. Check him out there. Nole Gameday, Bucs Gameday, UFC Knockout, Mavericks SI, Commanders SI, Wings Gameday. Here, the Spear host. He does a little bit of everything. What else you got? Anything else?
I meant to ask you. So
go ahead.
I do the Wings, like you just mentioned. How about the new head coach, Jose Fernandez?
Yes, Jose Fernandez.
If you can give me like a quick spiel on him, because that was a big hire for the Dallas Wings, and now Paige Bucker's getting coached by her or him.
Yeah, so the big thing about it is that Jose has been a staple in college basketball for the last quarter century. So this guy has really risen this program to prominence, where when they were in the Big East, they were one of the hot contenders, and now a team in the American that has been at the top pretty much the entire time the American has been around. Jose does some things a little bit different. He travels over to Europe and gets all, I mean, it's like the United Nations. It's crazy how there's so many different girls from so many different backgrounds. But I remember a couple years ago when he set some record, and it was either an appearance record or a wins record, and Gino Auriemma sent over a video message and just spoke so highly of him. They're really tight. And the last time that, and this is before UConn left the American, to go play wherever they're at now, excuse my not knowing that, but I went to go cover the game, and I went into the Gino Auriemma press conference because, Gino's one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. And I wanted to ask him what was, about Jose and his relationship. And Logan, he gave me like a 6-minute answer of how lucky we were to be around Jose, and about how he's such a developer of young, what he's done for women in this game, and how he's empowered, women and empowered men even in this game, like just continuously trying to grow the game. And Courtney Williams, who is a standout in the WNBA, what she's been able to do, former USF grad, and she speaks so glowingly of Jose. And again, it's like the international flair. He gives these girls an opportunity that probably wouldn't get a chance to play in the States, comes over here, and it's exciting. He's tough. He's like, it's a really cool thing to be able to see him go there with Paige, because obviously Paige playing for Gino, and like, I guarantee you, like, Paige was a huge advocate of this hire, because you look at UConn, like if you go to UConn, you know about USF just because Gino and Jose are tight. So that is a really cool thing. And for him to be able to leave, like, this is a guy that he's a foster for like dogs. Like, him and his wife have a ton of dogs. Wow. They had like a bark in the park thing that like went over huge for him, and he loves fishing. And for him to leave Tampa, because he had a nice, sweet gig, he could have rode off into the sunset. This could have been his last game or his last gig. For him to be able to go to the WNBA and take on this, challenge, like, that's a big move for him and his wife Tanya. Like, it's really, really cool. I'm super happy for him, and I'm glad that he's getting an opportunity in the WNBA. I think Dallas is going to love him because he's all in, dude. He's all in, and he's a damn good basketball coach, and he's got connections, so he's not going to be some guy that's going to be overwhelmed. He knows the women's game, and you're going to see a lot of the ladies that they play against show a lot of love to Jose, because, I saw it with Dawn Staley. I saw it with Gino Auriemma. You see it with a lot of these big Kara Lawson, like a lot of big time coaches in the game. Like, they know the impact that Jose has had. So Dallas, man, you got a great one. That's for sure.
Wow, that's great. I'll tell you what, I need to get in contact with you too. Maybe we'll do a piece there for our site and get some insight, just like you just gave us there, because that would be great to let fans know as well.
And he just texted me too, because and I got a good story too, because I actually did some play-by-play for them a couple of years ago. Derek Sharp, who does the play-by-play, couldn't go, and I went, and I got really sick because I have bad migraines in my family, and I had to leave one of the dinners like early. And the way that Jose like reached out to me and like he was just so supportive and such a nice guy. Like, it was really cool. And ever since then, like, he would come over after games and say hello. Like, he's just a good dude down to his core. And like, awesome. I'm a firm believer that great things happen to great people. So the fact that he gets this opportunity at this stage of his life and he made the decision to go, like, it's going to work out. And he's got Paige, right? So, I mean, like, it's like, damn,
she's a monster.
Yeah, she's a beast.
She's a monster,
yeah,
man.
Let me know, brother. I can help you out any way I can. So
100%.
Well, thank you for your help with me today in this show. And enjoy the weekend, man. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Heck yeah, man, Jay. Thanks for having me on. Talk to you soon. See you soon.
You got it, pal. The great Logan Robinson, man. I'm telling you, one of the best young minds in the game. Nole Gameday, Bucs Gameday. Guy does a little bit of everything. Interesting to see what happens with Florida State, man. Really, I think Mike Norvell's done. I think he's out of there. See ya. That's another job that'll be open up. And then you look at the landscape in college football. We've never seen this before. We've never seen this many job openings. I'd venture to say that we've never seen anything like this in all of the sports in this country. This would be, what do you think about it? LSU, Penn State, Florida, Virginia Tech, there's just so many of these jobs out there. That's like if, all right, the Yankees, the Dodgers, right? Maybe not the Yankees, Dodgers, because that would be what, like Alabama, Notre Dame. But I mean, some of the bigger names, like it would be like if the Red Sox job, the Phillies job, right? You're talking big time teams out there. That coaching carousel is one of a kind, buddy. That's for sure. I can't wait till the offseason. I think Florida State adds another name to that list. All right, let's bring him in. It's that time. He's on time. He's not getting pushed back because of Rob Zettler. Thanks, Rob. He's the man with the spoon, the man with the plan. LightningInsider.com, Erik Erlendsson. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Lightning feeling much better about themselves, buddy. 3 wins in a row. I can neither confirm nor deny if they put Steven Stamkos in their luggage last night to bring him home to get in the hell. We'll talk about the Lightning in a second, but bro, Nashville's a tough watch. They got a bunch of big, clunky guys. I mean, even the guys that I've grown to really admire on that team. And I know Roman Josi wasn't in the lineup last night, but like Philip Forsberg doesn't look like he's pulling away from anybody. Ryan O'Reilly doesn't look like the guy that we saw a couple years ago with Toronto. And it's a bad fit all the way around. It just looks like they're skating into each other. It's probably one of the worst teams in the NHL. I don't know if it's still probably early, but I just don't know how that's going to figure itself out.
You know how many 5-on-5 shots on goal Nashville had last night?
How many?
5.
Oh my God, man.
2
That's
after
rough.
the first period. Now, some of that, the Lightning were keeping the puck in the offensive zone, and they weren't giving Nashville chances off the rush, which has been an issue that the Lightning have had, especially in the early stages of October. But it's they've invested all this money in the free agency. Like they've been traditionally a good team, right?
Yeah.
Like a good defensive team with a good goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
Now with UC Soros, who didn't have a UC Soros type of year last year, but it's almost unexplainable as to why it's not working in Nashville when you bring in a Brady Shea and a Stamkos and a Marchessault to join a Forsberg and an Evangelista and some of the other young talent they have there. It's got to be tough to watch for Nashville fans for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew Burnett's a very good coach either. I think that's a huge reason why. I thought that he got away with coaching Joe Quenneville's team in Florida there, and then they bowed out, and he made 0 adjustments in that series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then I don't think he's done a good job at all there. So I don't think that helps either, but I digress. Lightning win 3 in a row. I still feel like they are trying to figure out what their identity is, but you wrote a great story on Charles-Edouard Dastou. I don't know if it's the 51, but he looks like Brian Campbell to me. He looks like a young Brian Campbell. If you remember him, a defenseman, Chicago, Buffalo, jumps into the play. Like he's driving play as good as anybody last night on the entire team. And then Dominic James, like it was ironic to see them both sitting in the penalty box at the same time. And then Dastou scores the goal, and Dominic James was the guy that kind of gave him the whack. But I mean, these 2 young guys, 2 youngish guys, they've really kind of push this team forward. And I feel like they've kind of slotted everybody in the right spot to give some comfort to this team and allow them to be successful over these last 3 games. Yeah,
Brian Campbell, the reason there's a delay of game penalty for a puck over the glass.
Right.
I think there's something to that, especially specifically in James's case because of the speed that he brings. And,
right.
Here's again, he's 23, so he's not 20.
Mm-hmm.
He played 4 years, missed most of 1 year, but 4 years at Minnesota Duluth, a pretty good D1 program in college hockey. So he's got the pedigree. He was on Team USA, World Junior Team, right? Like, but the speed certainly stands out. But it's the subtleness of some of the plays that he makes. And he's not afraid to test the waters, right? Like he's not testing the waters. He's jumping right in.
Right.
Like he's involved right away. Like, and we saw this in training camp in the preseason. And, as he continued to, move his name up the depth chart with the way he played in preseason. And he goes to Syracuse, plays the 4 games and is now here. And And he's already forced one roster decision because Mitchell Chafee was put on waivers, and now
Right.
he's in Syracuse, right? So he's
Mhm.
already forced one guy out of the lineup. And it's like a little touch pass he'll make in the offensive zone, to
Mhm.
keep a play alive. It's a poke check on a guy in the offensive zone to keep a play alive. The hit he delivered to Mitch Marner in the game against Vegas on Sunday. Like he's come here to win a job. He's not messing around. And as a coach, you have to love that mentality.
Right.
Right. We talked a lot about in preseason about the lack of changes that the team made during the summer, right? And basically bringing back the same guys, and not that it led to complacency, but sometimes it can lean that way for players, right?
It gets stale.
Yeah. You bring in a James who's injected some of that speed and some of the life into the lineup. You bring in Charles Edouard Dastu, who's, he's not a young player. He's 27, but a great story in his path to get here. And again, I encourage people to go read that story. It's one of the best feel-good stories I think I've ever written in my career. And it's a long career that I've had, Jay, as you know.
Yeah.
I think there is something to that. I would also add in the return of Zemgus Girgensons.
Right.
How many people have told me, what does Girgensons bring to this team? And all they want to look at is offensive numbers. And sure, 2 goals last year. We didn't expect that. Didn't get his first goal till February. But he was involved. But Zemgus Girgensons is just a professional hockey player.
He's so freaking strong.
Yeah.
How strong is that? He doesn't get muscled off the puck. He just goes like that last goal he scored last night. That was Zemgus Girgensons in a nutshell. Just going around the net, flipping the puck, and then he just scores and nobody else is like really paying attention. It's like, dude, he's got to be a nightmare to play against because his motor never stops. He's so like subtly strong. And he just seems like a good dude. He's not going to talk shit. He's not going to fight. Like, he's not going to take dumb penalties. He's the perfect fourth line winger.
Well, he did try and fight and took a dumb penalty the other day, but
that's true. I try to forget about that one.
Yeah. I mean, you understand what he was doing in that situation when Gonçalves got hit, but he just goes about his business, right? Like whether it's winning puck battles, protecting the puck down low, getting the cycle game working. It's a lot of the things that are not going to show up on a score sheet too often. And it was nice to see him get rewarded last night with 2 goals. I mean, he's already matched his total from last year and he missed the first 7 games of the season. Right. I don't want to say that the reason the Lightning have won the past 3 is because of him, but his presence means something to this team.
Yeah, it does.
And he brings an attitude and, just to go out and work, right? Like that line last night with Holmberg and Gord, a lunch pail line that ate their opponent's lunch. I mean, they were just so good in protecting pucks down low and getting pucks in deep and forechecking. I mean, they set the tone for the game. As much as we talked about the Gord, Goodrow, and Coleman line, for a couple of years here and what they were able to do in setting the tone, I think that trio last night set the tone in a lot of ways. So you just kind of add all that up together, the young players coming in, injecting something, a return of a guy like Girgensons. And I'm telling you, those 2 days of practice last week, that kind of, the 4 days off, right? They had 2 days off and then they came back for a couple of really good, hard practices. Was sort of a mental reset. It wasn't so much physical, it was mental, because what was the things that we were, criticizing the team for in the first 6 games of the year when we talked last week? Not competing hard enough, you're not paying attention to defense, and you're turning pucks over, especially at bad times of the ice. Now, that happened in the Chicago game, and it ended up taking a game that they should have at least gotten a point out of and got nothing, giving up a goal in the final minute. But you've seen it specifically in the last 3 games. The commitment to defense. They're really establishing a forecheck game. There's so many times where they're just rimming pucks hard around the boards and making sure the goalie can't stop it and then picking it up on the other side. So they're establishing that part of their game. And the big thing is they are cutting down on the turnovers, right? They're just, we've heard Coop say this a couple of times, a winning style of hockey, a winning mentality of hockey is what it takes. And you do that consistently enough and you limit the mistakes that you make, because mistakes are going to be made, but you limit them and take some of the risk out, you give yourself a chance. And lo and behold, they win a game 2-1 against Vegas. It's in overtime, but they win a game 2-1 against Vegas, and they only give up 2 goals last night against Nashville. So it's just been a combination of 3 things that's kind of put them through this 3-game stretch here as they look towards Dallas tomorrow. And, like we talked about last week, there is no overreaction like there is October overreaction for hockey. Right. The Florida Panthers started 3-0. Champs are back. Who cares? Barkov's out. They're going to be fine. I think they've won 1 game since. Yeah. Right. The Boston Bruins started their season 3-0. The Lightning beat them in Boston for the first loss. I think they lost the next 6. Right. So you kind of have to let things breathe a little bit. Now, November's coming. Now is when we start to kind of see who teams are, what teams are about. Is Detroit really this good? Can Chicago continue this? I mean, they really took it to the Senators last night, and that's where at the Lightning too, we've truly felt and believed that this Lightning team is a good team.
Right.
They're a good team who got off to a bad start. They've corrected it. It's not where you need it to be. But I tell you what, sitting with 10 points after 10 games looks a hell of a lot better than it did where they were sitting after 7 games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And with some of these young players, they got you asking, what's my age again? Because we know that it's all the small things, right? Speaking of I miss you, a guy like Nick Paul, come on, that's three Blink-182 references in a row. That's how we roll. What's my age again?
I'm not going to give you my age.
No, man overboard there, buddy. Nick Paul, when do you think we could see him?
Well, he's going to go on this road trip that starts Sunday in Utah, goes through Denver and finishes in Vegas. I don't know if we'll see him on this trip, but he's going to go and he's going to skate. He's been skating with the team, for basically, started this weekend. And I think maybe by the time the end of that trip, he'll be in the day-to-day category. So if not on the road trip, then I think by that game, I think it's Washington, they play at home. We'll look towards that as a potential latest he probably gets in the lineup. So he's close.
So who comes out?
Not only who comes out, who goes down.
That's the point, right?
And that's why, with Geeky's situation, right? Because he didn't have to go through waivers. You had a window of opportunity to maybe get a Dominic James up here, to get a Dastu up here, to see what they look like. You finished the Scott Sabarin suspension situation. They called him up for last night's game, so his 4-game suspension has been served. So he's free and clear. If you need to bring him up, you want to bring him up. It's look, these are the tough decisions that coaches and management like to have sometimes. Make it difficult on us. Look, they already made one, right, with Mitchell Chafee, so there's one. So with him coming back, as somebody just said, Radish is, if I'm Darren Radish, I'm a little worried about my playing time and about my roster spot. We'll see where things go with him because Dastu right now deserves to stay in the lineup. Dominic James deserves to stay in the lineup. Who comes in and who comes out and who goes down? They like Curtis Douglas's presence, right? He's not playing a lot, but they like his presence and, talking around that there's, his presence, for lack of a better term, polices situations. Right. So I think they like that element of having him around, but it is odd. Basically, you're going 6-11, right? Because Douglas, he played 3 minutes last night. He played 2 minutes against Anaheim. So we'll see exactly where things go with him. But certainly we know Curtis Douglas is not going anywhere, I don't think, until after November 15th at the earliest, if that's the situation with him, right? Because that's what they're doing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is not over. We talked about that. The situation with the Panthers is not over, and that'll be the first meeting they have is then. So, I don't know. These are tough decisions. I think I'm looking at Darren Radish. Another guy to look at, Gage Gonsalves.
I brought that up. I brought
9 minutes last night.
I brought that up with Greg Linnelli yesterday. I feel like they've gotten, and I wanted to get your opinion on this too. I feel like this is a very exploratory first quarter of the season for the Lightning.
Absolutely.
Where's everybody at? Who fits in where? What did we see at the end of last year? Can we move it to this year? I feel like Gage has gotten a lot of opportunities to get some top 6 minutes. I don't know if he's made the most of his opportunities right now, but I mean, if it comes down to it, right now, forget about the past, just this season, Dominic James or Gage Gonsalves, right? It's not close. It's not close. And I know it's deeper than that. And I know, you invest a lot of times into Gage and, he's solid and he's a playmaker. You probably want him to shoot the puck a little bit more and they've encouraged him to do so. But I mean, that's one of the things that I was concerned about going into this season. There wasn't enough roster turnover. Who's going to push from the bottom? Which guys in the bottom of the roster are going to push for more playing time? And how can you, deploy a line out there at any time that is going to be able to compete? Now we're getting that with James and Dastu pushing from the bottom of the roster, and your fourth line of, I tell you what, I'm not touching that line. And I don't know what that means for Douglas. I don't know what that means for Jack Finley. I don't know what that means for Gonsalves. But when you watch what those guys did last night with Holmberg and Gord and Gergensons, like, if you tell me that's the reincarnation of like a 3.5 line from the 2020-2021 season, like, I have no issues with that being the fourth line because all three of those guys can play wing. All three of those guys can play center. I know they're all left-handed, so that might bug some people, but I mean, Holmberg, they get scoring chances. And if you could throw them out on the road or at home at any time, like, that's when the Lightning were at their best, right?
Yeah, that was the key to those teams, is that it didn't matter who you played or where you played. You were comfortable throwing anybody and everybody out at any certain time in a game. And that's, for a coach, that's huge. That's huge for a coach to have that kind of trust in everybody that you can throw out on the ice. So, and look, we're not going to call him the fourth line because, John Cooper doesn't like labels.
All right, John.
That trio, they were so good last night. I had to go to sleep last night, so I haven't posted my recap from last night. So I've been working on it this morning and looking at the numbers. Like, that trio was like 98% expected goals.
Jeez.
Right. That's unheard of. And again, we talked about the lack of shots on goal that Nashville had. That plays into it, but so does their plays into how that went about. And you're right. I'm not touching them. All 3 games, they've been really good together. We're learning about Pontus Holberg and how good he is at protecting pucks, right? Like, both those goals he set up last night was because he's fending off a defender and makes one-handed plays, and they both lead to goals for Zengus Gergensen. So I'm not touching that line. Who your top 5 are. Who's that 6th guy, right? Gonsalves has certainly had the opportunities, but you look at the last couple of games, he started in what we'll call a third line, right, with James in the middle and Bjorkstrand. And there's a guy that needs to get going too, by the way.
That was the next guy I was going to ask you about, because the whole Elliot Friedman thing with Stamkos, and obviously that thing is going down the pike of like, all right, well, do they buy him out? Is there a route back to Tampa Bay? Blah blah blah. And you think about it, and I was mentioning this with Greg yesterday. If that does happen, right? If they find a way and Stamkos does come back or whatever like that, you got to make a trade. Like, somebody's got to go, right? And Bjorkstrand was that guy, like, I keep circling back to. Like, you want him to be a certain guy. And I just feel like we haven't seen, and I know it wasn't brought back for the same reasons, but he was brought here for a certain reason. And I don't know if we've seen that. And it kind of reminds me of the Tanner Jeannot thing. He was brought here for a certain reason. And I know that it isn't as drastic, right? I know it's not as drastic. But if he does not get to that point, at what point because listen, he's a free agent after the season, right? You brought him in because he had some term on it, but if he doesn't end up scoring 10 to 15 goals in the power play, if he is not really making a difference, do the Lightning look to move on from an Oliver Bjorkstrand at the trade deadline, or do they see it through for the rest of the season?
It depends on where they're at and where he's at.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, again,
but the fact that we can't say that in concrete is a problem, right? Because you were thinking, like, we know what he's been able to do. We've seen him play well against the Lightning before, but it's just, I look at it and I'm like, there's too many games where he's just not a factor. And that's a guy that's a middle six guy. And I think a lot of people are thinking 20, 25, maybe 30 goals this year. And, at times he looks like he can make a difference, but I'm not seeing the guy that I think that Julian, when he brought him in, thought he was going to see.
Yeah. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here because we're only 10 games into the season. It took him a few games last year to kind of find his role on this team. And I think before the injury, he was there. I think he had found his, and he was more involved. And he also is coming off the injury, right? Like, he showed me a scar, man. It's hip to knee. Like, I can't imagine, the type of rehab and everything he had. He said he feels good, but what else is a player going to tell me, right? He's going to say he feels good, and it's not that he looks bad out there. He just looks like he's not comfortable, and I don't know if that's because of the leg. I don't know if it's because of the fit. Because the other thing is too, like these past 3 games, like since they made that move last year, every game that Bjorkstrand played, he was on a line with Yanni Gourde because they played together in Seattle. So I think there is something to, they wanted to try and find a comfortable fit for him, and playing with Yanni Gourde was that. Now they've moved away from that. Gourde has been playing, obviously the last 3 with Holmberg and Gergensons. And now they're looking at him to see, force a guy sometimes to step outside his comfort zone and see how they handle it. And so that's why I'm willing to give Oliver the benefit of the doubt right now, based on his track record and who he's been as an NHL player through most of his career, and give him a little bit of an opportunity to breathe, so to speak. But it is something worthy to keep an eye on because he does have to get his game going. Remember, he scored the first goal of the season, right? He got that first goal against Ottawa on the power play, and he's had some looks. I mean, he had a great look. I don't know if it was the Anaheim game or the Vegas game. He had a fantastic look on a great feed from Kucherov on the power play. But yeah, they had the idea of him being on that side of the ice because he's a right-handed shot, and it hasn't clicked for whatever reason. But I think 10 games into the season for a lot of stuff is, he's not going to be taken out of the lineup for sure. They're going to let him work his way through this. But it's something to keep an eye on moving forward for sure.
How come we haven't seen him with Cirelli and Hagel? I thought that was going to be the idea with him,
I keep asking that.
And why do you think?
It's a good question. And I don't know if we asked Coop that question last year or not. And if we did, I don't remember the answer. But yeah, you'd thought that that's what they kind of brought him in for, to be a top 6 guy and to be a right-handed shot, because, Cirelli and Hagel are 2 guys that are, they're hounds on the puck, and Hagel's turned into a pretty good playmaker. He's, we've seen some of the passes and plays that he can make and set up. You'd figure with a finisher like Bjorkstrand that they could find a way to make that work. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they haven't tried that yet. I think we might have saw it in a practice last year, but we never saw it in a game. And certainly this year we haven't seen it either. So I don't have an answer for that one, because it just makes sense that they would at least give that a look, especially with this, some of the struggles we just talked about with Gonsalves there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, E, what are you looking for over the next couple weeks for this team to, let's say throughout the rest of this week, just continuing kind of the same strong play defensively?
It's what it has to be. This is a difficult schedule coming here, like Dallas home tomorrow, and then you go at Utah, and Utah's been great, and they've been really good at home. And then you're at Colorado, who's being Colorado this year, and then you're at Vegas, and Vegas has always been a tough place to kind of go into. So this is a tough 4-game stretch. You'll see exactly where they're at with their mental refocus, if they can continue it, right? So you're going to hear Coop in the next little while, because he's used these phrases a couple times. You're going to hear it more: consistent winning hockey, process over outcome. Fans hate that phrase, I think, by this point, because we're 5 years removed from hearing it in the Stanley Cup final in that run in 2020. But that's what it comes down to. It's, what can your process be like, and can it be consistent enough to give you a chance to win hockey games on a regular basis? And that's what you have to look for here. Can you continue to take these 3 games in particular, but even going to the Chicago game where, the turnovers doomed them in that game, but I thought their process was good in that game. Can you continue the 4-game process you've had here and just go out and do it again and again and again. You're not going to win every game, obviously, but can you put yourself into positions to win games? Can you be in position to win games 3-2 instead of having to win them 5-4?
Right.
And that's what this is all about for this team, because what was the one thing we talked about all last year? How much better their defensive numbers were, especially 5-on-5. That's the mentality you have to have. Can we keep a game within range to where you don't have to outscore your problems? In years past, they could do that. I don't know, even for a team that led the league in scoring last year, I don't know that they're a team that can outscore their problems on a consistent basis. You have to be in position to have the mentality to win games 3-2.
E, what's up on lightninginsider.com? I know the recap's coming up later today.
Yeah, that'll be up there, and consistent will be a heavy phrase used in that as well. But again, I encourage people who haven't read it to go read the story I teased you last week on Charles-Edouard Destou. A feel-good story just from his path, from being undrafted to, couldn't even get a contract to play in the AHL, let alone the NHL, 4 years ago, to going over to Europe and then finding his way back. But, there's a personal connection to his NHL debut as well that has something to do with his dad, who passed away his second year, right before the season started in Finland, his second year over in Europe. And he made a promise to his dad that he would make the NHL. At that time, his dad had already passed, but, he wears a ring around his neck and for that. And, I've said it, I've been at this a long time. I've written many, many stories through the years, and this is one of those stories that I had a hard time writing at certain aspects because, my eyes were welling up a little bit. And it's that touching. It's that, and, so you see him score his first goal last night, let alone make his NHL debut a couple of nights earlier. You just want to cheer for this guy, and certainly his play has made it. So that's up there. I encourage, and as you keep saying all the time, support the local media, because you probably don't get a story like that if you don't have local media around the team. So support the local media, and that's you, that's me, that's Ed, that's everybody that's involved in covering this team. It matters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we've only seen E get that emotional at the end of Avengers usually. So that's just the way it goes. Double E, Erik Erlendsson. That's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D. Erik_Erlendsson after on Twitter/X. Make sure you sign up for lightninginsider.com today. Use that promo code JNZ, $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring season as well. A lot of great stuff, and especially here when the Lightning go on this road trip against some really good hockey teams. A story about that stew, and then, of course, we'll be back at Benchmark International Arena tomorrow. You can catch E on the broadcast as well on the radio 1025 The Bone. E, appreciate you, brother. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yep, I'll have my Halloween tie.
Oh, boy, here we go. All right, pal. See ya.
All right, see you tomorrow.
We didn't get a chance to talk about Kucherov with his thing, but we'll talk about Kucherov. There's plenty. It's funny. That's I don't know. We mentioned him a couple times, but Kuch with the 1,000 points. Congratulations to Nikita Kucherov. He will be honored before the game tomorrow night. So make sure you're in your seats early at the Benchmark International. Not the bench. They get on us. Don't say the bench. Don't say the mark. Benchmark International Arena. Say the whole thing. That's what we're going to do right here on the program. Before we get rolling and get out of here, don't forget we got the Beckles and Recher podcast 3:15 today, live from the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Talking a little bit of everything today on the program. World Series Game 4 last night. Everybody wanted to see the reaction after the long Game 3. After Freddie Freeman walked it off in the bottom of the 18th inning, who was going to respond the very next day? Shohei Ohtani on the bump. He looked amazing, but gave up the big fly to Vladimir Guerrero, and then the Blue Jays go on to win to tie up the series. I have been so impressed with the Toronto Blue Jays. I thought LA was just going to roll right through them. I thought they were just going to blast them. But Toronto has showed that if you continue to do the little things, you're going to be in every game. And they are so tough. Even the innings where they didn't score runs against Shohei yesterday, they're battling with 2 strikes. They're battling with 2 outs. It's a team that's hard to root against. And I know, obviously them in the AL East, we often root against them. But my God, man, you're just watching them go out there and play their ass off. I mean, why not, man? Why not them, right? Now you're going to see the series end in some form or fashion in Toronto. That's what happens when you tie the game. Game 5 is obviously tonight. But Vladimir Guerrero is leading from the front, and he is making an even bigger name for himself than he already has throughout his career. And, of course, being a son of a Hall of Famer and one of the best players that I've ever seen. I mean, Vlad Sr. was such an incredible hitter, bad ball hitter, smart base runner. He freaking had an absolute cannon from right field. He was just he was a throwback, man. He would have been good at any era. And to see this team and how they were built, yeah, I mean, it's really impressive what Coach Schneider has done. And their bullpen, man. Chris Bassett going from the rotation out there to the bullpen. I really enjoy watching them play as a baseball coach myself. And I'm going to say yes for you, Savage, on the bump. I mean, he's got strikeout stuff up in the zone. I think he can get a couple of strikeouts early. I would go over. The Dodgers, if they're going to win the series, guys need to step up. And I'm looking at Mookie Betts. I'm looking at Max Muncy. I'm looking at Tommy Edman. But I'm looking primarily at Mookie Betts. Because they're going to pitch around Shohei. They're going to continue to do so smartly. But if I'm Mookie Betts and you're batting in that 2-hole, my guy, he's one of my favorite players. But he has to step up in a big way. Because if he doesn't, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble. But shout out to the Blue Jays for making this a series. And listen, the momentum, I think, is in their favor. The way that they're able to respond after losing that game, they know regardless of what happens tonight, they're going back to Toronto. Blue Jays got to feel pretty damn good about themselves. I think we're going to a game 7. I've been saying sweep 5 games. Man, just the way Toronto's proven me wrong, and kudos to them. I think we're going 7. I really do. Huge show tomorrow live from Benchmark International. We have at 12:30 Dr. Carlos Rodriguez with the EverHealth Injury Report. Then at 1 o'clock, Ira Kaufman, Joe Bucs fan, is going to join us to talk all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1:30 every day, Eddie and Cena from the Tampa Bay Times. What a program for you tomorrow on the show. And, of course, we cannot do it without our pals, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956, thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Shoot them an email. All your commercial and residential needs. These are the people that you trust when you're trying to renovate your house. If you have a plot of land and you're trying to build a brand new one, Russ and the crew can take care of you. And again, I said this before and I'll say it again. The way that they speak to each other over there, it's with respect, it's with dignity, and there's just a lot of trust, man. And you want to trust a guy like Russ. He's a guy that's a Tampa Bay sports fan just like you, a USF grad, a big-time supporter of the program. He's been with me since back in my WDAE days, and he's just such a good dude. These are the people you want to support. You just heard Erik Erlendsson from LightningInsider.com talk about support local. Well, it doesn't get more local than my pal Russ and the folks over there at Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC. Again, 813-244-0956. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Get you a discount. They got discounts for first responders and military personnel as well. Just give them a shout or keep an ear out. You hear somebody else talking about, oh, I'm trying to do some renovations. I don't know who to go to. I'm scared. I don't want to, I want to make sure that I trust the people that are working on my house. Honest Hammer, the place to go. EverHealth Injury Report tomorrow at 12:30 with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. Go to everhealth.org for more information. I have an appointment with Dr. Rodriguez on Friday to take a look at my knee, to take a look at my ankle. I don't just, I don't just endorse things and don't use them, or I don't just endorse them just for, shits and gigs, man. EverHealth, 17 locations in Pinellas County. It's clean. It's reliable. They take all kinds of insurance. It's amazing, man. It really is. It's a great company. It's the new age of healthcare, from the cradle to the grave, affordable healthcare for you and your family. Pharmacy on site, dentistry. You can go to the EverHealth Institute and build your career. A very similar school to what I went to, when I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. If you're looking for something, you want to work in the medical field, this is the place to go. everhealth.org. Check out their website. It is amazing to see what they have going on. And shout out to my guy, Josue. Great to have the opportunity to meet you last night. Thank you so much for the support, my friend. You are the best. Thank you very, very much. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up over here because I got to go to Ian's place because we got another podcast. Make sure you're locked into our channel right here. About 3:15, we'll be live from the Dignitary Cafe. I love you all. A big thank you to our super chat, Chan and Eddie, and our guests on the program today, Erik Erlendsson, Logan Robinson, and you. I love you all. Thank you so much. Be good to one another. Treat everybody with dignity and respect, regardless of the differences that we have. Let's find some common ground and the things that bring us together. Let's unify and let's not separate, man. This is the way it goes. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all the love and support. Shout out to Honest Hammer, EverHealth. We'll see you tomorrow live from Benchmark International Arena at high noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. I'm gone. Peace out.